So, couple things have changed. I think my last video I did was like end of summer, wearing a tank top. My hair was like down to here. So a little time has passed. In my last video, I talked about what it was like going to college in a wheelchair. And I did the logistics side of it. In this one, I want to focus a little more on the social aspect. The first tip that I have for anybody in a wheelchair that's going to college is to be proactive. You have to anticipate any possible issue that you're going to run into before it happens, because if you don't, you're kind of just screwed. You can't just sit there if you get stuck in a snowdrift, which is something that can happen. Or if your car breaks down and you're not strong enough or tall enough to see how to fix it. There's so many ways that like somebody in a wheelchair can just in an instant be at a loss. As bad of a joke as it is for being someone in a wheelchair who only has half of her toes, you gotta think on your toes. You already have to have an idea of how you can help yourself through this problem. The way to be proactive is to have like an emergency contact list. Essentially, it's something that is absolutely necessary if you're trying to be as independent as possible with your physical limitations. I had like at least, I'd say about 5 people in my phone that I could call at any point and know that someone would be able to come give me help, whatever that would be. When you run into these issues, you can't just like accept defeat. You have to absolutely come up with a solution, whatever that is, but it's not gonna be like, well, okay, you know what I mean? There's so many little things that would happen. They will quite literally stop you in your tracks, and you can't let that happen. I lived in a place where it would snow a lot. Every night I had to look at my phone and guess what the weather was gonna be like in the morning, and if it was going to be any kind of like icy or snowy out, I had to plan accordingly, and I would get up extra early, and I had to make sure that my electric chair was charged in case I had to take that to class. I had to prepare for like an extra half hour of commute because I would have to take the bus that day. I had to call like the main office of my apartment complex like a half hour before I would go anywhere so that they would have time to come shovel my like little pathway. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be able to get out of my apartment. In a manual chair, once it gets over like an inch of snow, it's pretty tough. But another thing that I really wanted to mention is that you gotta find your people. I did this thing that I found really helpful, especially being on a campus, where I would force myself to talk to someone new at least once a week. And I would just see somebody sitting alone at lunch and be like, hey, can I join you? Or same with like the library, or sitting next to someone new in class. Like, you never know who you're gonna meet, and they could be your best friends in a very short time. That extra support is so crucial because you'll have an extra eye to look out for problems or to help you in those situations that you can't necessarily help yourself in. One thing that I'll just have as a disclaimer, if anybody watching this is also in a wheelchair, you will be treated differently when you go out in like a public setting. Obviously, when I'm talking about college, you're going to sometimes be around people that are inebriated. That makes them act entirely different than when they were sober. One of the funniest things I think is when people tell you their life story when you're just like walking by. Literally anybody will just like pull me aside real quick and like pour their heart out to me. Don't get me wrong, I know that whatever they're saying is coming from a good heart, but it makes me laugh sometimes. Like, I remember one time I was leaving a restaurant and the waiter pulled me aside and he like crouched down with me and talked to me for like a solid 15 minutes when we were on our way out, and was like, I understand your pain because I sprained my ankle in high school. That's what he was trying to say, but it took him 15 minutes to say it because he had to use a wheelchair for like 2 days or something. And I'm like, I don't want to seem like an asshole, but I'm just like, Another funny thing is like people don't expect to see you out. There's this huge misconception with people with disabilities that they don't really have lives. People will get very interested in the fact that they see someone like you out and about, you know what I mean? I love being around drunk girls because whenever I go out, I'm most likely going to be dancing at some point in the evening. They're just turn into your biggest hype men, and I love it so much. You just look at a total stranger and they're just like, yes, get it! Ooh, speaking of dancing though, there's this fun part. And when I say fun at this point, I mean sarcastic. There's this weird dynamic when I go out dancing because I can't dance like the typical girl would with a guy. And guys don't know how to react to that. And it doesn't mean that they won't dance with you, but in their different state of mind, their immediate thought seems to be, I'll just give her a lap dance. No, do not get in my personal bubble. No, don't do that. I'll just do my dancing thing over here. You stay over there and we can just like dance next to each other, and that is all I want. Most of the bars I would say that I went to were not accessible. Whether that be just like one step into the building or an entire flight of stairs to where I wanted to go. I am the last person to run into this obstacle and be like, well, I guess I gotta go home. Like, no, hell no. If I purposely came out with this intention of having this type of night, I'm not leaving because of a gosh dang curb, okay? All my friends are very well versed in like how to help me, and I don't even necessarily have to ask. I just kind of like look at them and they're like, gotcha. But here comes the caveat. I always have to be alert and perceptive of others who may be able to help me. So if I have to flag down some random person to carry me up a step or two, I have to make sure that I know that they're okay enough to help me where I am still being safe. Because the last thing I need is to be falling. If it's a whole flight of stairs, don't even risk it. At that point, don't ask your friends unless you're sure that they're absolutely sober. That is when you ask like the bouncers or like people that are working there that should be sober and have them help you so you can be as safe as possible. One thing that I have to do a lot is put just blind trust into absolute strangers and hope for the best. Going to college from a perspective of a wheelchair is just so interesting because I'm constantly watching how others interact with each other and how they interact with me, and I notice those little subtle differences. Like, it's good to keep in mind to anticipate when physical and social obstacles are gonna come up and how to deal with them accordingly. So you're not being rude to anybody else, but you're also being kind to yourself. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you can't walk or if you're 3 feet below everybody. Like, just enjoy it. It's the only time in your life that you're around everybody else doing the exact same thing that you are. It's so fun. I hope you liked this video or found it like entertaining in any kind of way. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share, subscribe. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I'll get to them later. But until then, don't forget to love yourself, have fun, and I'll see you very soon. Bye.